Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's NewsStand, and I want to go over this week's Watchmen episode 7. It was called An Almost Religious Awe, which is a callback to what Manhattan said in the graphic novel. Now, before I get into it, these videos are usually a lot longer, a lot more in depth, because I do go through it kind of with a fine-tooth comb, but for as much as I want to finish this series, and as much as I love it, it took me 7 episodes to see what others did right away, which was blatant racism. I've always been kind of naive. I'm very book smart. I don't have even enough common sense to make $1. Now, when it comes to me with stuff like that, I don't understand jokes always or sexual innuendos. Sometimes when stuff is more hidden and layered, I don't get it unless it's a callback to, a comic or something like that. But it's harder for me to see. So, I want to apologize to some of the people I've said were crazy, like Zach and some of the others that, by defending this show. So, I'm going to finish it. I'm still interested in it. And I still do have some theories. I'm not saying it's all bad because the backbone of the story is there. But in the same instance, the backbone of the anti-white sentiment was there all along. And I don't agree with that at all, because I believe, like, all lives matter. Color shouldn't matter. But Damon Lindelof clearly thinks otherwise. So I just wanted to say that before I get into my actual review. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe. As always, if you enjoy this video, hit that like button. Links are in the description to support the channel. Leaving a comment, sharing the video, anything like that always helps. I read every single comment. So let me know, of course, what you guys are thinking of the show. If you're even watching it, or just how you are. I'm going to go through the episode in full. Obviously, I want to point out the racism that I've seen, and now looking back, I don't want you to think I'm crazy. It was there. Like, I don't know how I didn't see it. So, it starts off with a documentary of Dr. Manhattan. And it's not the American Hero show that we've been seeing. It's just a documentary that's kind of going through Angela's memories, which we've seen a lot of in the last episode. So, she's in Vietnam, and we see this, she's from Saigon. We did know that before. But we also see Manhattan in this, going through when he was in Vietnam. It looks piss poor. Like, it looks even bad compared to Zack Snyder's. So it pans out, and we see this VHS shop where she's wanting to buy a movie called Sister Night. Hence where her name came from. Very similar to how, like, Bruce Wayne looked up to Zorro, stuff like that. So this is some sort of celebration that she's at. It's celebrating, I'm assuming, their freedoms. It's all centered around Manhattan, and they're in Saigon. We see this puppet, and, like, it's very close to what we've seen in Doomsday Clock. So I do like that they put that there. I'm sure it was done on purpose, but she takes this movie that she just bought, Sister Night, to her parents. They say no. Her father says no, specifically because people who wear masks are dangerous. Of course, he's remembering his childhood trauma because his father was Will Reeves, who's Hooded Justice. Now, she goes to return the DVD, or takes off to return it. And the man that was doing the puppets that I just talked about is a self-deletion bomber. And yeah, goodbye, parents. Like, you were gonna be a superhero. We knew your parents were gonna pass away. So she wakes up, and that's because she fell out of bed, and now she's waking up at Lady True's, and that's where we had last left her in the previous episode. And Lady True is kind of such a bitch, but I still love her. She keeps complaining. Angela keeps complaining, and Lady True's like, kind of sick of having to go over things multiple times. So she injects her with this tutorial explaining basically the detox process of nostalgia. We also do learn at that time that Lori Blake sent her there to try to save her life. So it does seem like Lori is legitimately still on her side, a little bit at least. She wants to see her grandfather. Angela really wants to see her grandfather. She just lived as him. She wants to see him. Lady True explains, as the treatment goes on, she will re-experience her own memories vividly. And that's kind of how we're going to learn Angela's origin. But we also learn that she can't see her grandfather because she basically wouldn't know where she ended and where Will began. So Cal shows up outside, and he to see Angela, and we see Red Scare and Pirate Jenny are kind of staking the place out, waiting for Angela to arrest her, because as of right now, she committed an illegal act. So Cal goes up to the guard shack to ask about seeing his wife, and they won't let him. He gets to speak to this hologram of Bien, and she basically says he can't see Angela because the Millennium Clock will be activated in 12 hours. And it looks like we're going to get that activated next episode, unfortunately. But this whole episode is going to be, the countdown to when the Millennium Clock is finally turned on. So we switch to Agent Blake, who's listening to Angela as she's kind of going through that nostalgia trip. She's saying basically everything outside out loud, and she recorded it. Petey calls Agent Blake, and we find out that not only is Looking Glass alive, good, but that he killed all 5 of the people from the 7th Cavalry who tried to attack them. Now they're all still there in full mask. He's able to confirm that they are 7th Cavalry, minus 1 mask, which I will get into that later. I think that is going to play an important role. I think we are going to see that mask taken for a reason. So that's when Judd's wife shows up on her little horse, and that's when her and Agent Blake head inside to kind of talk about Judd's death. So this is obviously a very important part. Laurie says that she knows who killed Judd, tells her all about Will, tells her all about Angela's trip on nostalgia, what exactly happened, tells her Will was hooded justice because, and I quote, white men in masks are heroes, but black men in masks are scary. Excuse me, what? Like, what? Okay, we'll get more into that. So, she does say about Cyclops and entertains the idea that the police chief in Tulsa could be a white supremacist, and that his friends like Joe Keane or that of 7th Cavalry could just be Cyclops by a different name, and that Joe Keane used them to kill a bunch of white cops kill a bunch of cops rather on White Knight to put the cops in masks. Now, no one would be able to tell who's the bad guys, no one would be able to tell who's the good guys, and the ultimate goal would be their, pledge to their newly elected leader, President Joe Keane. So that's what she's thinking in a nutshell, Lori. So, Judd's wife confesses everything, and I love it because it's so like comic book fashion where they tell you the story or what they plan on doing before they actually do something about it. So it's all true. And it was the original idea because they wanted, President Keane as himself, but that wasn't enough. And like I said, there'll be more on that later, but Joe just doesn't want to be president anymore. He basically wants to be God. So she messes with a remote, Judd's wife does, and it kind of sticks because it's so old. It's a trap door that's Laurie's sitting on, and she drops in. And then we switch back to Angela, and Bien walks in. Of course, that is Lady True's daughter, and she's giving her like a modern-day Rorschach test in a way. It's for a disrotation on empathy and rage suppression, and she asks Angela if it's hard to lie to her kids about being a cop, which triggers a memory. When she was young and when she was in Saigon and she was in the orphanage, she was asked to identify the person responsible for her parents' death, right? The bomber. So she does. And you hear them shoot him right out back. It's so weird. But all the while, a female cop is pretty empathetic with her and gives her badge. And there's kind of that first look into her actually maybe becoming a cop, which we know she does. So she wakes up and Bien is still there, and she starts to tell her about the vivid nightmare she had before. And we did see this a couple episodes ago where Bien woke up in the middle of the night and she was experiencing these nightmares. And now we're going to get finally back to Ozzy. But I do want to note that when it comes to Bien, I said I thought she was a clone. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. So, Ozzy. And I have quite a few theories when it comes to this, which I will tell you after I talk about this scene. But he's been on trial now for a whole year. Like, we know time's not moving the same, obviously, as it is in Tulsa. But we're seeing the closing arguments. And the one law that they go by is thou shalt not leave. Wherever they're at, thou shalt not leave. But not only that, they do talk about his crimes when it comes to killing the clones themselves, when it comes to killing the comedian, the residents of New York. So I originally kind of thought maybe he was in some sort of purgatory. No. I'll explain that in a minute. He is asked to defend himself, and holy fucking lazy. Like, I can't even. The dude farts. Yep. That's what happens. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's so out of character. It's not Ozzy. It's lazy. It's stupid. Are you kidding me? I was so disappointed. But the judge then does say, he needs to be judged by a jury of his peers. The clones aren't his peers. What could be his peers? Oh, a bunch of pigs. Again, lazy, dumb. I hate all of it. And that's where we see it switch to a statue of him. So, here's my theory when it comes to Ozzy, because we're not going to revisit him again in this episode. He is either in the statue or in some type of coma, because Lady True, is his daughter. Do you remember the little save me thing? And it said save me D, and it was cut off. Well, it could be daughter, not Dr. Manhattan. Who would spell out a whole freaking name, Dr. Manhattan, with bodies? I mean, daughter is enough, but it would explain her extreme interest in the brain, the memories. It would explain her studies into the brain. It would explain why she bought his company. Not only that, but it would explain if Manhattan had put him this way, her interest in finding Manhattan so diligently. And we will find out that she definitely wants to find Manhattan. She definitely thinks she has, and we'll find out who it is. So, we are back at Lady True's. And Angela is looking for Will. And Lady True sees her, invites her to lunch. And Lady True says that she has a secret plan to save humanity. It would explain why so many things between Lady True and Ozymandias are very similar. And in Peteypedia, it says that Lady True gave everyone of Tulsa HD TVs. I think she's going to use those not only as a spying device of sorts, but to use that mesmerism we seen through Will, that we learned of through Will, the mind control, to wipe out the past painful memories. She thought by creating nostalgia that people would be able to relive those memories, cope, and move on, when she really came to realize that was one of her biggest failures, because people can't move on from painful memories. People, for the majority of it, cannot get over something so bad. So I do think that it's going to be some sort of mesmerism, some sort of mind control to start a new world, so to speak. And not only that, but it would be able to return Ozzy back to this world free of consequence, right? So True asks about Cal's accident. Then we find out the truth about Bien. Now Bien, I thought was a clone. She is not True's daughter. She is her mother. She is a clone of her mother. I thought it was actually a clone of True. But all those nightmares she's been having are her mother's real memories that she experienced in Vietnam. Because, of course, she can clone her mother, but she's not actually her mother without her life's experiences. Kind of shapes who you are and how you function. So she's trying to give her little by little, whether it's a nightmare or something like that, through her IV every single night. She also says she wants her, or Lady True also says she wants her parents to see when she completes her life work. So, if she has Beon, which is her mother, she just needs her father, right? And she says he's going to be there soon. Well, if Ozzy's coming back, it would make sense that it was her father. So we switch to a tied up Lori Blake, and Keen walks in. We'll get there. Anyways, Lori doesn't want to hear any of it. Like, she reminds me a lot of her father here. She kind of has this whole time, but I love it. And Joe Keen says, we're about restoring balance in those times when our country forgets the principles on which it was founded because the scales have tipped way too far. So, now are you ready for the one line? The cringe. That made me completely open my eyes to this whole series. Here it is. Because it is extremely hard to be a white man in America these days. Excuse me, what? Oh my god. Like, how did I not see this running rhetoric? How did I not see this hidden agenda? I mean, I did in small portions, but that's what it comes down to. Like, it's so hard being white. Please. I can't take it anymore. Please. I am sorry I was born white. Anyways, fuck you, Damon Lindelof. Let's move on. He says he's going to basically be blue. So he wants to be a new Manhattan. And this is where it comes in that I think that one mask from earlier was saved from Looking Glass. I think he's going to show up and help Lori. Now, also, if we've noticed throughout the series, we've seen these true boxes when it comes to connection with the 7th Cavalry. So I don't know if she's working alongside them or if she's playing them, but there is some sort of connection there. So we switch to Angela, and she's kind of watching Lady True give a speech right before the, Millennium Clock ceremony, and she follows her little tube, and she breaks down the door she was trying to get into earlier, and it's literally an elephant in the room. Like, I know there's some line about elephants having a great memory, so maybe that has something to do with it, but it's literally an elephant. I don't get that one. I am not even kidding. I do not get that one. But she does pull the thing out of her arm. I mean, she's hooked up to an elephant. Of course she's going to. She pulls it right out of her arm. And she falls back into a memory of Saigon Orphanage where her grandmother shows up to adopt her. Now, we've seen June quite a bit in the last episode. And she kind of explains who she is. She takes her out to lunch. They have, typical chat, bonding, all of that fun stuff. There is one pretty cringy line. And it's little Angela shows her the Sister Night movie, right? And her grandma asks exactly why she likes that movie. Little Angela says, she looks like me. And her grandma's like, oh yeah, she does. There's not a lot around here that look like you. Like, my representation all right there. I can't even take it seriously. So they end up leaving. And June puts her in the car and goes to walk around to the other side and has a fucking heart attack. Like, what? So she's got to stay in Saigon. Like, it's pretty messed up. But Angela wakes up by the elephant, takes off to the elevator, and we open it up to this, huge room with a blue globe. And we learn that these Manhattan phone booths we've seen previously in the series are all just a lie. They're a spying device kind of for Lady True, and that's when Lady True shows up, right? And we see them kind of start to interact. Well, she says that Manhattan isn't listening. Manhattan isn't on Mars. He's here in Tulsa. And she kind of asks her, like, Angela, are we really going to keep fucking around? Are we going to be honest with each other? So she reveals that the ultimate reveal here is that within the hour, 7th Cavalry is going to capture not only Dr. Manhattan, who's in Tulsa, but they're going to kill him, and then they're going to become him, which we learn that that's what Senator Keene wants. True says, can you imagine that kind of power in the hands of white supremacists? Like, oh boy, this is what it all comes. Do these people realize that your audience is that white supremacy isn't real? Like, it's not a real thing. Okay, anyway, so Angela thinks she's crazy. And Lady True points out that she never asked who Manhattan was. Well, that's when Angela leaves. So she runs into Red Scare and Pirate Jenny as she's leaving. They try to arrest her. She basically runs them over with a car and heads home. But we do see slightly, they're not going to intervene during this episode or anything, but 7K is outside her home watching. So Angela's in the kitchen, right? Frantic, looking around for a hammer. Cal is extremely confused. He was sleeping. Angela says, it's time to come out of the tunnel. She explains to Cal that there was no accident, that it was all a lie so they could be together, and that it was his idea. Then she calls him John. So she knocks him out, and she opens up his forehead and takes out the atom symbol that's normally on Dr. Manhattan's forehead, and we see the blue light kind of start to rise up. And then we see Dr. Manhattan in her eyes. And she just says, hey, baby, we're in fucking trouble. And you see that in her eyes. So, of course, they race swap John. Because, of course, they do. Why didn't I expect that? Why didn't I see that? I kind of wondered why the guy from Aquaman was a house husband. Kind of a little bit. But I don't mind it. But I just kind of feel like, pull the Band-Aid off. Like, this one was the one that really got me. This was the one that I was like, oh, fuck you, Damon. Like, this was the one that really opened up my eyes. I do think that the reason why they planted that, or, why Angela and Dr. Manhattan came up with the idea to implant that in his head was because we saw Dr. Manhattan lose his humanity, right? The only chance at him being happy was him not able to see the future, him not able to see the past, him not able to think of people just, as their basic elemental balance. So what I think they're using and what I think this is made of is tachyons. We've seen that both in the Watchmen and more recently in Doomsday Clock when Dr. Manhattan's memory or his ability to see in the future was blocked. So I do think that is what they're using. Now, I don't know how this is going to play out. At the end of my last review, I said, I hope this doesn't come down to black versus white. It's going to be very disheartening. Guess what it's coming down to? It's coming down to everybody versus the white man. Like, I can't take it seriously anymore. I really hope you bring something out next week that's really good, because this ain't it, Chief. Let me know what you guys think. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey, I want to give a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star and Patreons. You guys literally make this channel possible. Thank you so much to Sanjuro, Way Else One, BG Torrance, Black Knight Fool, Brucey, Grand Smear, Jeffrey Allen Carnes, Jeremy Burtz, Mike Buckner, Robert, and Timothy French. You guys are freaking amazing. Thank you so much, and make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.